What is good, YouTube? Today we're gonna be reacting to Not Joey Black again. Sorry, chat. I've been posting a lot of reactions. There's family over from Sweden right now, so like shit's like just like fucking hectic. Everything's all over the place. I don't even know what day it is. Most of the time, shit's just going by super fast. So I'm sorry, but I'm trying to get some more challenges in here. Challenge videos. I'm gonna do stuff with viewers. Let's just get into the video.
If you feel like you're losing duels you shouldn't, whiffing easy shots, or feel like the enemy somehow kills you
I've also been playing a lot of Black Ops 2 Zombies. Forgot to mention that. You know, the port. All right,
before you can even see
shut
them, you're not a bad player. You just haven't mastered the movement meta in Siege. In this video, I'm breaking down exactly how pros dominate fights by mastering peeking, how movement affects your aim, and how to use movement to get
Dak
more
compared to
peek
Tom
advantage
Brady
in every gunfight. If you have any
Yo, bro, I posted that video as like I basically I posted like both Dak Prescott and Tom Brady 10 years both in the same same amount of games played, and Dak's stats were better, and people are just like mad, bro. Like, what the fuck is there to be mad about? Dak has better stats in the first 10 years of both of their careers, and that's okay. That's fine. Tom Brady has more Super Bowls. Dak has better stats. That's fine.
questions,
It's okay.
follow my Twitch.
I'm not saying Dak's better than Tom Brady, but it's okay to admit that Dak has better stats than Tom Brady with when both of them have 10 years played in the game, and that's
a
that's
very
fine.
important movement concept that you need to understand if you want good movement is T-swinging. Now, the way that I can explain this to you is imagine I'm walking forwards and backwards. To Zofia, I'm actually not moving at all. My head is completely still. Versus if I'm moving side to side, then my head is moving very quickly. Now, imagine combining two movements. Maybe you're moving up and left on your joystick or pressing A and W on your keyboard. Then, all of a sudden, you are moving slower relative to Zofia, because this is no movement and this is full speed. If you combine the two movements, then you're going to be at half of the maximum speed that you could be moving. So to put this into practice, if Zofia is standing right here, then she's drawing the base of the T looking towards you. Now, to swing her properly, you want to make the line at the top of the T, right? So this line like this. The more perpendicular that this line is compared to this one, the faster you will be moving on her screen. If I swing Zofia and I don't want to walk in this doorway, let's say, right? And I start right here and I back up to shoot Zofia, then I swing into the angle slower than if I walked over here, got a perpendicular angle to Zofia. Remember the T before. So if we want to walk across this line, we start here, we aim this way, and then we wide swing Zofia at full speed. Making this T formation gives you the maximum speed relative to her, giving you more peeker's advantage. Some of my favorite movement tech in Siege, I actually got from Counter-Strike. I've played Counter-Strike for a long time. I've hit global in Counter-Strike, and while grinding up the ranks, I learned about this thing called a donk slide. Essentially, what it is let's say you are getting into a gunfight, right? You're swinging out like this. What donk would do is, in Counter-Strike, obviously there's no leaning. He would go into the gunfight, and then he would crouch and swing the other direction. This will throw off their crosshair placement, and of course crouching in CS makes you able to move a little bit while you're shooting. In Siege, it's actually even more effective because you have leaning, so you can lean into the gunfight, and then you can swap to the opposite direction of leaning, crouch, and go the other direction. This works especially well if you're caught out in the open. So let's say Nomad is behind this door here. When Nomad swings out, if I'm moving this direction, then I should switch leans, crouch, and swing the opposite way, which will throw off her crosshair a ton. What this looks like in practice is, well, free kills. As long as you remember the T-swing mechanic that we talked about before, you always want to be perpendicular to the angle, so if Nomad swings me here, then I can switch leans and swap directions, and it completely destroys her crosshair placement. Did you know that every single operator in the game, whether 1 speed or 3 speed, whether you're using a pistol with the movement benefit or an LMG with the movement penalty, no matter what, if you are ADS, you move the exact same speed? I didn't believe it. I had people spam me in one of my past videos with comments about how if you are ADS, everyone moves the same speed, and I didn't believe it. But Goomba and I tested it, and it is true. So I'm going to use Solid Snake with my pistol, which is a 3-speed with a movement benefit. And Goomba here is going to use Mira, who is a 1-speed. We're both going to ADS, and we're going to walk at this wall. And we will make it to the wall at the exact same time. So it is difficult to time starting at the same time. However, you can see the distance between us doesn't change at all. We are moving the exact same speed. So the only real benefit that you get from playing a 3-speed operator is if you are un-ADS. When should you wide swing and when should you quick peek? In any situation, the answer is almost always going to be quick peek. There's only one situation in Siege which you should wide swing. Let's say you're back here and I'm swinging Echo. If I wide swing, you can see how slowly I move on his screen. That's because of how far away from Echo I am. So in this situation, you want to quick peek, right? You just want to AD peek real quick, see Echo, then you can pre-fire him, whatever, right? You just want to quick peek in this situation. Now, let's say Echo is in this corner here. Then you are much closer to Echo, right? 3 meters away. So in this situation, you can wide swing because it will throw off his crosshair placement as you're swinging. Because since you are closer to him, as I'm moving across the screen, he needs to move his hand further across his screen to aim. If you want to have good movement in Siege, you need to understand how your movement affects your aim. You need to remember that all of your movement affects your aim. So even if I'm this close to Ace, if I lean, then my crosshair is fully off of his head. And if I lean the opposite direction, it's still off his head. Now, if I don't lean at all and I move side to side, then my crosshair is off his head. If I crouch, it's off his head, etc., etc. You've probably heard me talk about this before. But since this is a movement video, I'm going to go over how you can use this to your advantage to help your aim. So there are really two options. Either you can move less, right? Whenever you're in the shooting range, you're shooting at targets completely still, most likely. So then if you get into a game and you start leaning, then all of a sudden it'll throw off your aim and make it harder to aim. So in that case, if that's you, then one thing that can help is just if you go into this angle, leaning this direction, just don't change your lean direction and it will make a huge difference in whether you can hit your shots. However, if you want movement to help your aim, then you should stop spending so much time in the shooting range and instead play free-for-all deathmatch. That's because let's say your crosshair is over.
Now no true words were ever spoken, bro. Bro, a lot of the pros play free-for-all. Free-for-all is goated, bro. I play free-for-all. And, you know, I'm not at a pro level, but let's say I would say I'm probably the level under pro, so T2.
Over here, you can use leaning.
I just choose not to play
instead of moving your crosshair off of it. Now, in a real game, most of the time it's going
I don't want
to
to take the shine away from Mingo,
right? If my crosshair is over here and I want to hit them in the head, I can lean and I can aim and I can crouch. This way, I can throw off their crosshair placement and use the leaning to get.
You are not T2, bro.
And by the way, if you are looking for a more in-depth learning experience, guaranteed to help you rank up fast, I am joining as a coach for the first ever Siege boot camp. There are classes on a ton of different topics ranging from communication with Mint, thinking outside the box.
Oh, this is a yo, all respect to Joey Black, bro. You know what I mean?
There. Sprinting in Siege is almost never useful. I almost want to recommend unbinding your sprint key, but there might be like 5% of situations in which you should sprint. But just think about it, right? Even if, right, you assume that everything here is clear, how much of an actual speed benefit is sprinting from right here to here? If I sprint, then it takes 2 seconds, versus if I ADS the entire time, which is the slowest possible way that you can move, then it takes 4 seconds. So you can make this distance in half the time if you sprint there. But how much of a benefit is that 2 seconds actually going to give you in game versus the risk that Thorn actually walked up to this angle after you got off your drone, and now whenever you start sprinting at the angle,
you dead as fuck.
You can't fight her. Versus if you walk up to the angle ADS like this and then Thorn swings you, at least you can fight Thorn because you're not completely caught off guard in sprinting. The year is 2026, and in 2026 you should stop doing the whole Shiko peeking, crazy lean, 360, dab on the haters, melee the wall.
Bro, dab on the haters,
it's just not worth it anymore.
Hit the whip.
Is if you're in Pro League, sure, you can still use it. You will get an advantage from it if you're in Pro League, but these videos are not made for pro players. For most players, the amount of thought.
So why am I watching the video then?
And the amount that it throws off your crosshair placement and the amount of practice that it takes is not worth it. Instead, you should just be AD peeking. You get almost the exact same benefit from AD peeking as you do
I
psycho
do this
peeking.
a lot.
But AD peeking requires almost zero practice, and instead you can use your practice on getting better movement in other areas, or better aim, or better positioning, or better crossing placement,
especially if you play on
it is,
console. There is no reason to psycho peek, bro.
The whole psycho peek. If
Stop
you
it,
already have the skill, you can continue doing it. But if you don't know how to psycho peek, then honestly, it's not worth learning. A good movement tip for quick peeking is if you are on ADS, then you actually move a lot faster, and it can make your quick peeking a lot more effective. But this only works if you're quick peeking for information. If you know that someone is in an area, then you do want to ADS quick peek. So that way, if you see them, then you can get a shot off and potentially kill them, right? So you quick peek, imagine I killed her. Especially if you are pre-firing a bunch of different angles, then it can be very, very useful because every single time you pre-fire it, and that's great. But if you are quick peeking for information and you just want to see, is there someone in this room, then you want to do it on ADS, so that way your movement speed is faster and it's less likely that they kill you while you're quick peeking. Then once you quick peek on ADS, then you can ADS while you're behind the angle and repeat crouched and get a kill. Never just sit on an angle like this, because this makes it very easy for you to get pre-fired. Instead, if you hold an angle, you want to jiggle like this, so that way
jiggle that shit, boy.
Decides to pre-fire, there is a very, very low chance that you're actually going to be on the angle during the pre-fire. Because if I'm jiggling like this and then Lion pre-fires this angle, then if I'm off the angle, which is the majority of the time whenever he starts pre-firing, I can re-peek into the angle and kill him. This allows you to get pre-fired way less often. So if you notice that you get pre-fired off of angles a lot, adding in this AD peek on the angle gives you almost all the benefit of knowing if they cross the angle, but it's very hard for them to pre-fire you, because as long as you have a decent reaction time, then once they pre-fire the angle, then you can repeat crouch and get a free kill on them. Now, in a similar vein to the last tip is swing or be swung. The same idea applies. If you're holding an angle like this, it's very easy for Sledge here to pre-fire me off of this angle because he has peeker's advantage, where I will likely die before he's even on my screen. The AD peeking that we talked about before is essentially just swinging the angle over and over again, so that way you are always the person swinging the angle. The same thing applies if you're holding an off angle like this and then Sledge pre-fires this angle, then you can immediately swing out, and now you are the one swinging Sledge because he's already on the angle pre-firing. Another example could be, if you want to be a little bit more risky, is let's say you're holding an angle here, right, which is a bad idea overall, but this is a way to do it. If you hear Sledge swinging into the angle, the second you see any part of Sledge's arm or head or anything,
just
you want to leave the angle and repeat crouch, and this way you can pre-fire him. If you have to hold an angle, another thing that you can do is the second that you hear them swinging the angle, then you can wide swing them. So you have to listen very, very closely for footsteps. If you're in a call with someone, you might need to deafen so that way you can hear what is going on, because once you can see them, it's already too late. You need to do it preemptively based off of how close that's a big word. So I won't talk at all during this, so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. Right before Amaru gets into the angle, you want to start wide swinging, so that way you get the peeker's advantage on Amaru here. This allows you to not get pre-fired again, and this mainly works on angles where there's not a cross angle, right? So a cross angle, for example, is if Amaru is outside of this door, you have this close wall and this far wall, so that way when deciding how you should be moving, you always need to keep in mind the cover that you have. If you...
What the fuck, boy? That was... Oh, damn, I want to learn that, bro. God damn it.
Always be standing. You should never be crouched out in the open. Although you think it makes your body smaller, the movement penalty that you get is not worth it. If you have cover like this, you want to be crouching behind it. If you are ever standing whenever you have cover like this, you need to be wide swinging this hallway, because otherwise crouching is always going to be more useful. Or if you have wall cover like this, make sure you are never leaning the wrong direction. Here I cannot see Warden at all, but he can see my entire body because I am leaning the wrong direction. Instead, lean the correct direction, so that way as much of your body as possible is hidden behind this cover. This also affects how your movement changes as you're swinging. So if you are playing behind behind this cover here, but then you want to swing out, you should be crouching into this angle, so that way as you get out of the angle, you start using this cover as this wall no longer becomes useful to you. If you want to be good at movement, you need to stop crouching. There are really only a couple situations in which crouching is not completely useless. One example is if you are playing behind cover, right? Obviously, if I'm standing behind this box here, I don't want to just be standing, because then my entire body is exposed to Ying, and I'm a very easy kill. So in this situation, you would want to crouch, so that way less of your body is exposed to Ying. The other situation in which crouching is helpful is to change your head position mid gunfight. An example of this is if I quick peek and I see Ying right here, I don't want to re-swing here because she will be pre-firing where I re-peek. Instead, you quick peek and then you re-peek crouched. You can also use the donk slide that you talked about earlier, where you switch directions and you crouch. Those situations, crouching is useful, but in those situations, crouching is a purposeful mechanic that you are using to get some kind of advantage. You should not, however, be crouch walking around the map. This is completely useless. Walking gives you the exact same benefit, except if you're walking, then you can instantly unwalk and you can move faster, whereas if you're crouching, if you stand up, it makes a very loud sound for the enemy. If you want good movement, there is an aim mechanic that you need to focus on, and if you get better at this aim mechanic, your movement will flourish. This is because of what we talked about earlier, where if you lean, your crosshair goes off of their head. If you want to get good movement, right, and you want to be able to do all the movement tech that we've talked about in this video, having good tracking, which is the aim where you keep your crosshair on something that's moving, is very important, because if you are moving, then it also requires good tracking to keep your crosshair on their head. And whenever you add in a lot of other movement, then you need to get really good at tracking. So if you want to use good movement tech, then you need to get really good at tracking aim. It is extremely important. Most people completely forget to work on tracking aim. And essentially the way that you do it is, let's say you're in the shooting range, you just spawn in the dots and you just track them all around. You don't need to shoot them, you just track them with your crosshair, and that will get you better tracking aim, and it will make a huge difference.
Chat, appreciate y'all watching the whole video. Like I said, I'm going to do different videos, like challenges. My next video is going to be Squid Games with viewers. I'm getting kind of tired of these reacts anyways. And I'm out. Peace.